Have you ever noticed when something suddenly becomes popular, the price of it rises rapidly? And when nobody wants it anymore, the price goes down as quick as it went up. This isn't random. It's how markets function. In economics, this is called the price mechanism. Hi friends, welcome to Econverse. I'm Abrar and I am a fellow student just like you. Last year in my GCSEs for economics, I topped in Oman. And in this channel, my goal is to make learning economics simpler, clearer, and hopefully a lot more fun. In this video, we're going to be looking at the price mechanism and the role of markets in an economy.
So let's start by discussing the role of markets. So the primary role of markets in any economy is to allocate resources which are scarce effectively and efficiently. So what does this mean? So essentially, an economy is a system which attempts to resolve the basic economic problem of scarce resources in a world of infinite wants. So there is infinite wants and finite factors of production or resources. Hence, we have to use them in the most efficient and effective manner in order to allocate resources efficiently and ensure that markets operate at their efficient best. And in order to allocate resources effectively, there are three key allocation decisions. So these are, quite simply, you can put them in three words: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. So essentially, these three economic decisions go on to decide the allocation of resources in an economy. So an economic system is a mechanism for deciding what is to be produced, how production is to take place, and who is to receive the benefit of that production. So this is derived based on the economic system present in any country. Now, an economic system can be of three major types. Firstly, you have the planned economy. Then you have your mixed economy. Then you have your market economy, and in between both of these you have your mixed economies. So a planned economy is one wherein your three decisions are taken by governments, all the three allocation decisions, and then factors of production are owned by the government, and then the directives are given to state owned enterprises. So this means that even firms are government owned. And last but not the least, the state or the government controls the price mechanism. Essentially, this is one of the three types of economic systems. And this economic system is prevalent in countries like North Korea, for example, wherein they have majorly a planned economy. And now the other extreme of this is something called the market economy. So the market economic system is wherein the allocation decisions are made by something called the price mechanism. So what is the price mechanism in the first place? Let's just have a look at the price mechanism before we continue. So essentially, the price mechanism in an economy is the interaction of demand, which is the willingness and ability of consumers to buy a product, and supply, which is the willingness and ability of firms to supply a product, that determines prices. So it's quite simply in a diagram. We'll be discussing demand and supply further in the next week. So this is denoted as demand and this is supply. And basically the interaction of demand and supply determines the price. And this is highlighted through the price mechanism. Now, moving back on our topic. So, in a market economy, these decisions are allocated by the price mechanism or the interaction of demand and supply. Government intervening is low. What does this mean? This basically means that the governments don't intervene in economic activity. They don't try to regulate economic activity. Now, one of the important differences is that the factors of production are privately owned. They are not owned by the government. Firms are driven by profit motives. The firms operate in order to make profits, and thus they are considered to be more efficient. However, one of the drawbacks of a market economy could also be that this could also create income inequalities. However, that's for some other day. For now, this is somewhat an introduction to a market economic system. Now, a market economic system could have been seen in US a few years back. But right now, most of the world is moving towards a mixed economy. So a mixed economy is somewhat in between both of these economic systems. So essentially there's both public and private sectors, and then governments do intervene when needed. And lastly, factors of production, FOPs, are owned by both. So we've looked at the price mechanism and how this works. So essentially the price mechanism also does have three main functions in any economy, and these are called the signaling function, the rationing function, and lastly the incentive function. I'll just briefly explain this, and I think this would make more sense once we complete a video on demand and supply. I can make another one recapping the price mechanism. So the incentive function discusses how the price mechanism gives incentives to firms to produce certain products, and the signaling function highlights how it shows that certain markets have shortages and certain have surpluses, and thus the economy reallocates the resources. Lastly, the rationing function. This is when, for example, if the economy is at this level, wherein there is higher supply than demand, the rationing function signals this to the firms, and this eventually, over time, leads to a fall in their supply or a rise in the demand, allowing for an equilibrium to be met. Alright, so that is it for the price mechanism and the role of markets.
If you think this video helped you understand economics better, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join the Econverse. I'll see you in the next video.